Hi, Rowan. Can you hear me?
Dobro večer. Good evening, everyone.
Dobrý večer.
Yeah, I can hear you. Thank you.
Hi, Rowan. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, no problem.
Yes, you got the questions, right?
Yeah, but we can just take this space organically, and I'll just
Yeah,
talk.
for sure. I wanted
Yeah.
to make it so just know what we're going to talk about. Also, just your mic is a bit loud, so if you just like put it a bit far away.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, I'm gonna do this short introduction and check, and then we are gonna talk about Brian
Yeah, perfect.
to
Thank you.
explain. I think. And you are going to stop moving the cupboard. So what are you doing?
Yeah. I'll stop. Thank you.
No, that's fine. Okay, so I'm gonna mute you now, and I'm gonna do the introduction. Okay.
Perfect. Yeah.
Tak, vítám vás u dalšího dílu z Letné a Strahova. Zdeněk s Vojtou už probrali návrat Briana Priskeho v češtině. Já, protože my jsme vlastně na začátku minulé sezóny, když Brian odešel ze Sparty do Feyenoordu, tak jsme tady od kolegů ze Feyenoordu rotterdamského dostali pozvání zúčastnit se jejich podcastu, které jsem tehdy přijal, a bylo to moc příjemný, tak jsme se rozhodli teď vlastně role otočit a pozveme zase jednoho z nich do našeho spaceu, tady Rowan, který je v uvozovkách velký fanoušek Briana Priskeho, tak souhlasil s tím, že si na nás udělá čas. Ten díl z pochopitelných důvodů bude celý v angličtině, říkám to předem, a zároveň, protože vám ho chceme přinést i zítra ráno a ty titulky přece jen trvá udělat několik dní, tak předem říkám, že bude celý v angličtině. Pokud se chcete Rowana nebo mě na cokoliv zeptat, samozřejmě tak jako vždycky stačí napsat libovolnou otázku, já se to pokusím číst, byť jsem tady na to sám, ale jak říkám, bude to celý v angličtině, pokud angličtinou nevládnete, omlouvám se, nejsem schopen dělat sám simultánní překlad, ani bychom do rána nedali vlastně překlad, ale chtěli jsme vlastně využít naše mezinárodní kontakty a udělat to. Takže užijte si to a hezký poslech. Okay, Rowan, you should be unmuted now.
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yeah. So I doubt you could understand anything.
No. It's not. It's not an easy language for me.
Yeah, it's absolutely fine. So what I figured out from the comments from the tweeted when we shared it before we started, some of your fans were saying that you are like quote unquote huge fan of Brian. So I would like you to summarize his tenure at Feyenoord, if you would be so kind and tell me what went wrong, how he was as a coach in your opinion, and so on.
Yeah, that's good. Well, a fan, I think they mean it. I was being sarcastic the last season. Initially, I had high hopes for Brian at Feyenoord, but that soon changed into despair, and I don't know. I didn't have a good feeling about his traineeship at Feyenoord after like 3 or 4 months.
Mm-hmm.
So I was very critical about his performance at Feyenoord.
So what went wrong? The first question that Vojta, that was doing the podcast with him about him, was that he changed the formation from 4-3-3, which Arne used, to 3-4-3, which was a system, frankly, that he was really successful with at Sparta.
Yeah, that's right. When Feyenoord announced he became our new head coach, a lot of people thought we just continued the same formation as we played with the 3 years prior before Brian came. But to our surprise, he changed the system to something he was familiar with at Sparta. And that didn't seem to really help our team in the first few months at Feyenoord.
What was the problem? He didn't have the right players, or there were, like, for example, too many people left from the Arne Slot's era. What happened there? Or like he was just too stubborn and tried to force his system onto the team?
I think it's a mix of multiple things. Arne Slota proved himself to be one of the best coaches in European football right now. So it's really hard to replace him. So that's not Brian's fault at all. That's just to fill his shoes is a big task, and I don't think very many trainers would succeed at following Arne with what he did at Feyenoord. But it's hard because Brian, when he came to the club, his first interview was very positive. A lot of people had good feelings with him. We saw the videos of him walking naked over the field after your championship. We saw him with speeches in the dressing room, which were very funny and also very strong. And at first, it seemed like he really fitted at Feyenoord and Rotterdam, because Feyenoord and Rotterdam is it's different than the rest of the Netherlands. We are like we are famous for being direct, for just saying what we think, and he seemed like a perfect match for us. But in the first few months, when he started the whole campaign at the Eredivisie and the Champions League, the first cracks in our relationship began to surface. He had no say in buying players for that season, so that was all of our technical manager. That he was unlucky also with transfers and with our team, because our strikers are really bad this year, and his system is the strikers are very important in his system, and we could not deliver a striker with the potential to fulfill his ideas. Let's say it like that.
I have two questions regarding this. First one was like, and I think we talked about this in the summer together. In the Czech Republic, he was very well accepted by the media. His charisma, some of his quotes, he had a different approach than the Czech coaches have to the football. And when I was writing, I don't know if it was you or some of your colleagues, he mentioned that he didn't really do well with the Dutch media, which was quite surprising for me, especially. And he said, and basically your friend said, like, he was quite a bit boring. So if you could explain this to the Czech football fans.
How do I say? Danish players and coaches in the Eredivisie are always in the eyes of the common Dutch people. We always think Danish people are boring, or just a little bit gray, not very happy, not very clear in what they want to say. And the strange thing is, when he arrived at Feyenoord, there was a lot of videos of Priske, being normal, being funny, being not a typical Danish guy. But when he arrived at Feyenoord, it seems like he was very nervous, because he was very I don't know if boring is the right word to say, but he was not very extravagant. He was just a bit quiet and a bit silent, and it was very hard for us Dutch people to get a hold of what he was really planning to do at Feyenoord. And if you look at our last few trainers, Arne Slota, for example, he was really good with the media. He was funny. He made jokes. He was good with the team, and Priske was like a 180 direction from what Arne Slot was doing. So a lot of people were taken by surprise when we found out that Priske was just a bit more introvert than our last few trainers.
The other thing that was quite interesting for me is that you said that he had no say in a transfer. Was it like, I don't know what the processes are in your club, but basically in Sparta, what Tomáš Rosický told me, that with all the coaches, they have a say in the transfers. They approve all the transfers. And if I'm not mistaken, you already signed, but it's going to be for the upcoming season, Sam Stein. I'm sorry for the butchering the name, but he was the best goal scorer for Twente at the Eredivisie. And my question is, why was he wasn't signed in January when Jimenez left for the AC Milan? Wouldn't this be able to save the season?
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Hello?
I hear you again.
Okay, perfect. Hi.
No, it's fine. Did you hear the question, or should I repeat it?
No. I could hear you fine. It was strange you couldn't hear me, but it's okay.
No, it's
No,
okay.
you don't have to repeat it. Things at Feyenoord were a bit different last season because Arne Slota opted for a few players from the season before, and they were all bought really quick in the summer stop. So when Priske arrived, he had to do it with the players that Arne Slot wanted for the team. So Feyenoord wasn't really keen on buying a lot more players for the system of Priske, because, as I said before, Feyenoord hoped that Priske continued the legacy of Slot, but he did change the formation quite soon in the new season. So
there are a question in the comments, and it's saying, what was the issue with the technical director, Dennis de Kloose? So if you could answer that.
Well, our fans have a hate-love relationship with Dennis de Kloose, if I can say it like that. At one side, he is really proactive, and he's really has a good relationship in the media, and he's very thoughtful about what he says. But at the other side, he is quite passive when it comes to buying players. And the strange thing now is the season was not over, and we bought Sam Stein from FC Twente. And we want to buy a midfielder from FC Groningen, Valente. So it seems like he learned his lesson, because now he is quite quick with buying the right players. But de Kloose is famous for getting really late into the transfer window to buy players.
So you think he didn't really have confidence in Priske really quickly, which was one of the key things.
Well, he said he did, but personally, I do not have the feeling de Kloose really supported Priske from the start.
Mm-hmm.
So if I can say one thing positive about Priske, it's that he really had to do it with the players he got, and did not have a saying in which players he wanted to buy. And in the winter window, we sold Jimenez to AC Milan, and that was the nail in his coffin. After that, it was quickly over for Priske.
I have a question. Let's move a bit backwards, and if you could compare the Arne Slot's style to Priske, because Arne was focused on a high pressing and possession, and how would you describe the changes that came under Brian when during his tenure?
Well, we have a saying in Dutch that sounds like you cannot compare apples with pears. So maybe it's lost in translation, but you cannot compare Arne Slot and Priske in any aspect of the game. Arne Slot was a trainer who could, with a blink of an eye or one direction, he could change the whole setup of the team. And Priske seemed really, how do you say? He did not have the complete team behind him. It seems like Priske really had to be very aggressive and be very loudly before players listened to him. Well, when Slot said something, you could see the players running to different positions and just accepted what he said. So Priske did not have the backup of the team directly in the season, and that was not fair for Priske maybe. But also, I think a coach needs some kind of charisma or some kind of how do you say?
Aura.
Aura. And Priske did not seem to really show that at Feyenoord at first. So players were not very keen on listen to his tips and tricks while the game was playing out.
One of the listeners is asking, okay, but on the other side, Feyenoord beat Bayern. How is it possible? Why was Priske so bad?
Well, the funny thing is, when the game against Bayern was played, the day before, we all heard that Priske was going to be fired at the day of the game. So the whole media was already writing and talking about the fact that Priske was sacked before the game. But he stayed on for that game, and people are saying that if he lost the game, he would be fired directly after the game, and if he would win, then he could stay on. But so we magically won 3-0 at home, and he could stay for a few more weeks. But let's just say, in the Champions League, Priske really outperformed every coach in the last 40 years. We played 3-1 against Benfica away. We played 3-3 against.
No. Okay. Can you speak, Rowan, again?
Hello.
Hello, Aryan. So one of the listeners asked to join you on the space, and before Rowan connects again, if you can give your opinion and analysis regarding the transfers under Priske, that would be good.
Yeah, I try to do my best, and
that's fine.
Yeah. The transfer, we're gonna see what this year with the transfer for Feyenoord is, who's gonna be in that sort of things,
Okay.
And yeah, we do our best, for this year.
Okay.
And I know what Robin.
Okay, I got you, Rowan.
Yeah. Arjen is a very special person. I don't think he's
yes.
Really
I wanted to give him this minute.
No problem. No. But like I said, in the Champions League, Priske really outperformed every coach in the last 40 years. So about the Champions League games, I cannot say anything bad. He was really doing well in Europa.
Okay, but still, there were some games where you didn't do so well. For example, 6-1 loss against Lille, and so on.
Yeah. But that was just the perfect storm for Lille. We were outclassed. We had a lot of injuries. We played maybe the worst game of the season, and that was really more an incident than a logical result of the game.
One of the comments says one of the problems with Priske was that a lot of key players got injured because of the way Priske was training.
That is partly true, but also we had really bad luck with the injuries this season.
So,
he trained completely different than Slot did. So at one time, at one hand, most players were not familiar with his training style, but we also had very bad luck this season with the injury. So it's hard to point directly what was the biggest problem, but his training were way too long and not intense, but very unlogical. So most bodies of our players just reacted on the way he was training our players and developing our players.
There's a question I got from Vojta. It's like, to what extent could you, as a fan, see a clear identity of Feyenoord on the pitch? Whether like things like vertical passes, high pressing, structured build-up, or did it basically everything through the months fell apart? Or were there was there like a theoretical ambition or anything that was part of the Feyenoord's game you would think that was actually improved under Priske?
Hello?
Yes, I got you again, Rowan. That's fine. We are gonna cut it.
I have no idea. I have no idea what keeps happening, but I'm sorry. But
no, that's fine, Rowan. It's nothing. It's fine.
But
I try to do something on my side as well. So I hope it's gonna be fine.
Okay. Well, but Priske's idea of playing was totally different than what the players are used to. Even our defense, which I would say is our strongest line, was very unsure in the matches. We have David Hansko, who is one of the biggest prospects in European football when it comes to just basic defending. And even he seemed like a schoolboy sometimes with the tactics of Priske.
wasn't a problem because one of the Priske's biggest strengths at Sparta was his team. But he was unable to bring over Lars Friis, which eventually became a head coach. He wasn't able to bring over Christian Klarup and the others. So that's my question and my opinion, whether his downfall came because he was unable to work with the familiar faces, and Arne Slot didn't actually take a big part of his management team to England, right? So wasn't the problem that many people from the Slot era actually remained at Feyenoord?
No, I wouldn't say a lot of people stayed, because only Sean de Wolf, his second assistant coach, stayed. And our performance team, most of them also got other jobs when Arne Slot left. So there were not a lot of people staying after Arne Slot. Well, even Priske took a lot of people with him, like Babalola and the other guy. Mm-hmm. And later in the season, they also became a problem for Feyenoord. So if I have to say the biggest reason why Priske left the way he left, it was because his assistant coaches were not the smartest or the kindest people to the Feyenoord staff.
Yes, that's one thing I wanted to ask, especially Lucas Babalola, because I had a chance to do a podcast with him, and he seemed to me like a smart guy. He's roughly the same age. And what I read then in the Dutch media, he became really a hot topic at Feyenoord and basically a problem. And I think one of you guys told me actually that Feyenoord basically gave Lars a decision whether Lucas go or you go. And in the end, both of them went out of the window. So if you could explain this.
Yeah, that's true. After a few bad results, people started talking about the departure of Priske. And at the game day against Bayern, a Danish newspaper got the information that he was going to be sacked that day. And later, we found out that Babalola was the one informing the newspaper about the culture at Feyenoord, at the fact that they didn't feel welcome, the fact that they didn't feel listened to. So he was like the biggest factor in the whole story about Priske being sacked at Feyenoord. And if you say he's a good guy or he's a smart guy, I will believe you. I do not think he was stupid or he was mean or something. But he just had to keep his mouth shut, because it's not very nice or very professional to just talk to a newspaper about the whole story, and especially in a different country where things get lost in translation. Because a lot of things in the newspaper and in the story about Priske weren't true at all.
So he didn't have issues with the players, because I read like the players also found his methods lackluster, and also I think you said that the training sessions were maybe too harsh, too long. So the biggest problem was like basically he was leaking info to the media.
Well, that was the whole start of the whole discussion about the sacking of Priske. But even later, we found out that Babalola was the main guy for the performance and for the training setup, and people and players were complaining about his lack of creativity in training, and it was very basic and very tiring for the players, and not in a good way tiring, okay, but just mentally tiring for most players.
Mm-hmm.
So
one of the other Feyenoord fans is actually writing also the fitness in the groups. Players were tired faster due to the inactive training. Many players were not happy with training exercises. So this is basically what you just told me, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Also, there was a weird switch when it comes to the first choice goalkeeper, but I'm unable to pronounce both names. But if you could explain the whole story and anything, I would be really glad for that.
I'm sorry. Could you repeat the last question? The connection.
Yeah, for sure. I know that during the first half of the season, Brian actually switched the goalkeepers. And I don't even try to pronounce the names because I'm not Dutch. So if you could explain the whole story for me.
Well, we have two very talented keepers. The names are Timon Welleroyter and Justin Bijlo. Bijlo is familiar with a lot of injuries, so he is very hard to really trust when it comes to being fit for a full season. And Priske found that out really soon in the season, and he started to change out the keepers in different games. Once he was convinced that Timo Welleroyter should stay in goal, uh, Justin Bijlo became injured again for like the sixth season in a row. And Timon was our first choice after that. So it was a bit of a how do you say? It was unnecessary for the media to pick it up like that because they made it a lot bigger than it was in reality. But Timo Welleroyter eventually became our first goalkeeper. And the thing about that is Justin Bijlo is like a kid from the club. He played his whole life for Feyenoord. A lot of people want to see him as the first keeper just because he's a real Feyenoord fan. He has tattoos of Feyenoord and everything. So most people did not give Welleroyter um, a real chance to defend our goal. But my personal look at it is that Timo Welleroyter is a very good keeper, and I don't really care about who's keeping for Feyenoord.
I have another question connected to that. We already talked about this, and you told me that basically when Santiago was transferred to AC Milan, it was the final nail in the coffin for Brian at Feyenoord. How important was he? Because I know that at like some point of the season he was also hurt for like a month or two. So how important he was for your success in the previous seasons, and how much was Brian missing him?
Ooh. Well, the thing about Jimenez is he had his ups and downs in the last few seasons. He was scoring goal after goal, and then for a few weeks he didn't score at all. So he was very he wasn't really constant in his performance. So um, when the first talks became about him possibly leaving Feyenoord for AC Milan, he was already with his head at Milan. So it's very understandable as well because AC Milan is his boyhood club. He really wanted to go there. But our other strikers, Yassi Ueda and so I lost his name, Julian Carranza, they're both very, very, very bad strikers. I'm not a fan of both of them, but they suddenly had to score the goals for Feyenoord, but they're not um, anywhere near as good as Jimenez. So when he left, uh, I believe Priske was already gone when Jimenez transferred, but the whole situation about him and around him in the weeks prior before that didn't help Priske at all. So when he was sacked, we already knew that Jimenez was going to leave AC Milan.
I also wanted to ask something. I think we talked about this together also in the summer. That when it comes to Sparta, Brian had 5 draws in a row, and already at the start of Eredivisie, in the first 6 rounds you won 2, but you drew 4 against Nijmegen, Groningen, Sparta Rotterdam, and against Willem II. I don't know how I pronounce it German,
Perfect.
but it
No,
doesn't
it's
matter.
perfect, really.
It's perfect. Okay, thanks. I think so. Wasn't also the problem that basically the board, the fans, and everybody lost confidence quickly due to this chain of results?
Well, if you put it like that, it's very good possible. But Arne Slota was also famous for not winning the first few games in the season. So um, they really quick started to compare Arne Slot and Priske, and I do not believe most people lost their confidence in him. But it was more the way we drew the games. With Arne Slot, when we drawed against another team, we were always the better team and just were unlucky or some stupid thing happened, a red card or something. But with Priske, we had no good attacks. We had no big chances, and the goals we conceded were always very, very how do you say it just dumb goals we got, like, yeah. So um it was not the result really, but it was the way we played in the first few games in the start of the season. So it was very quickly that the media started to say Feyenoord lost his speed, or Feyenoord could not make a fist against the opponent. And when that talk started, I believe Priske already was doomed to fail this season.
I don't know. Did you hear me or not?
No, I did not hear you.
I was asking if one of the breaking points was when around 1/3 of the season when you lost the derby against Ajax at home. If this was the breaking point also.
It contributed to the whole situation, but it wasn't really the definite breaking point. I will believe that was against PSV in the Dutch Cup. We're used to losing against Ajax. Ajax is the last for 2 years we won all games against Ajax, but before that we hadn't won in like almost 20 years. So it can happen, but against PSV was the breaking point and the final straw for most fans.
I heard one of the comments is Priske couldn't motivate the players to the maximum for a match. Players didn't run for each other anymore, not much fun in the duels. I have a connected question regarding this, but also with Brian, you were able to draw 3-3 at Etihad against Manchester City, even though you were 3-0 down. So Brian was able to motivate players to some extent, but there were other problems. Or like, what's your view on this? And I'm gonna ask you why.
Well, yeah, it's right. We played 3-3 against City after coming 3-0 down. But the biggest thing that helped us get back in the game was the substitution from Pep Guardiola. He substituted his four best players, and after that was done, we started playing good football again, and we draw eventually 3-3. But so I wouldn't say Priske really motivated us, because he was very quiet that game and very passive. If you look back at the game on YouTube, you can see that he isn't really part of the comeback. It really had to do with Pep Guardiola's tactical decisions in that game. Did you hear me?
Yes, I heard you,
Okay,
but like
perfect.
my mic. Do you think he lost the dressing room at some point during the season?
Yeah. And personally, I think that was quite at the start of the season already. Like I said, he did. I never had the feeling that the whole team really trusted his style of play. And once again, he had to fill the shoes of Arne Slot, and Arne
Mm-hmm.
Slot became champions with Liverpool in his first season. So
Mm-hmm.
no one expected him to do that. But even the most basic principles of football weren't delivered by Feyenoord in the start of the season. It really seemed like we were just do anything and just we were on the pitch, but we were not playing football we were used to. So most players quickly realized that here's no Arne Slot, and when players don't win, they really get demotivated soon and quick.
Do you think he got enough support from the board, from De Close and the others? Because I also like, in the end, the board was split from what I figured, and like you have to know that like I can't read Dutch, so I translated all the articles. But my point is like, was this like the decision that divided the board whether to sack Brian or not?
Yeah. Well, another good question, and the answer is going to be very difficult for me to explain in English, but I will try to
Okay.
do it. Feyenoord is like a politic party. Feyenoord isn't just a normal football club. We have different layers of directions and different layers of quote unquote important people. We have the sporting side, so that is the Kluse and the football director of Feyenoord. But we also have stakeholders. We have people like the sponsors, and those people have a really loud voice in how Feyenoord acts. And those very influential people were done with Priske. And the Kluse eventually had to follow them because otherwise he would also lose his job or people would not take him seriously anymore. So what I personally think is that the Kluse became really stressed about his own position because the even bigger influential people said to him, "You have to sack Priske now," and that's what really happened with how Priske got sent away, because most people who were not on the foreground or who you won't see on TV every day, but do have a really big voice in Feyenoord, decided that he had to go.
Another topic I wanted to touch on is what was his relationship with the fans, because he was and he still really is loved by most of the Sparta fan base.
Yeah. It was fun because I saw his announcement post on Instagram at your page, and everyone was very positive and very happy, and it reminded me about how Feyenoord fans are with Arne Slota. So, okay, Feyenoord and Sparta are two different clubs in size, in people, in even maybe a dumb comparison, but you are a football club of the capital city, and Feyenoord is a football club from the second city of the Netherlands. So it's for most fans it's different, I believe. And Priske made you champions twice, right?
Yes.
So we understand that he's loved by your fans, but he still had to prove everything at Feyenoord. And not to be mean or something, but when you do well at Sparta Prague doesn't mean for Feyenoord that you're a good coach. You still have to prove everything.
For sure.
So that was it. Yeah, I know. Priske is. I honestly believe Priske is a very good coach, but just not for Feyenoord.
I know that one of the things he was doing after the games with us was the huddle, that he took all the players together at the center of the pitch and he was explaining for a minute or two how was the game, what can be done better, anything. But he cancelled this in Feyenoord. Was this something that was talked in the media? What did you think about the practice before? Because if I remember correctly, you and the guys also asked me this last summer.
So I had to laugh. Yeah, the huddle. I already forgot it. When the season started, after every game, he called everyone in the middle of the pitch, and he wanted Internet to do a meeting with the players for like 1 or 2 minutes. But if you win, then it's okay. Then it's fun. Then it's cool to do. But when you draw or lose almost every game, and you still do the huddle, then people get annoyed with it,
Yes, and we had the same issue.
Yeah, and another thing,
the same issue in Prague.
And another thing he did after every game, the day after, he posted a story on his Instagram page. But
yes,
if you win, then it's fun, then it's cool. If Arne Slota did it, we would all cheer for it. But every game he posted the same, and it was, we have to work harder, keep our heads up, and until the next game. But
yeah, for me it's quite funny because he did the same thing at Sparta, but we always we cherished him. But here there is something you make fun of.
Yeah, because Dutch people hate when people are being positive without a reason. He was in our eyes he was just trying to turn the negative into a positive through his social media. And if there's one thing where Dutch people are allergic for, that's not being realistic about what's happening. If he would post a picture of we played terrible today, I'm sorry, we will try our best next time, then it would be a different story. But he was very optimistic after a game in which we played really, really sucky.
So you also think that the Priske was not the best cultural fit?
What do you mean?
Cultural fit regarding like the Danish coach with his attitude can't do really well in
No,
Eredivisie.
no. Like I said in the beginning of this podcast, Danish people in Netherlands are portrayed as like very boring and just not very extravagant people. So when he arrived and his whole body language was screaming, I'm not certain. I have no idea what I'm doing, and most fans picked it up quite quick into the season.
There's one comment that's quite interesting, so I'm gonna read it too. It sounds to me like you think that it's all Brian and his staff's fault. We tend to defend the coaches and blame the management of the whole club, but I guess that's consistent with what are you saying, that your club is not a club but a political party. So for you, it's easier to blame basically one of the factions at Feyenoord and the coach than all of the management.
No. Like I said, I do believe Priske is a very good coach. Only he had to fill in the shoes of Arne Slota, and also his personality just didn't click with our fan base. Um, I think a lot of people are at fault for what happened last season. It starts with our coach and our players because our players are performed really bad as well. But you cannot sack your whole team. So the coach is always the first person to go. But um, for a long time, I'm not okay with how our club is being managed by the stakeholders and the most important people. But those people will not step up or will not leave. They made themselves too important to leave the club. So Priske was the face of the new Feyenoord last season, and he was just an easy target for most fans to 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 relieve our anger at.
So there are like, if just to say it quite easily, there are also structural problems at Feyenoord that wasn't really Brian's fault, but he was the one that took the fall.
Yeah, yeah. For most part, yeah. Now in retrospective, if now the season is done and we all had time to reflect on what really happened. I do believe that Priske should never became the head coach of Feyenoord, and the person who gave him the job is also at fault for what happened, because when you put Priske at a team like Marseille or Lille or maybe like the mid-table at the Bundesliga, he would do very, very well. But at Feyenoord, where he had to fill in the shoes for Arne Slot and the way Feyenoord likes to play, he is just not the right person for the job.
I have a question. If you would compare Brian, for example, with Giovanni van Bronckhorst that won you the title in 17-18, I know that he also played for the club, and so if you could compare them as a coaches.
I think they're very similar in a lot of ways. Giovanni van Bronckhorst did make us champion, but to be honest, it was more because of Dirk Kuyt and Nicolai Jurgensen, our striker, and the legend Dirk Kuyt. Because the year before we became champions in 2017, we lost 7 games in a row, and every other coach would be sacked. But because Van Bronckhorst is a big name in Rotterdam, he could stay on. But I really never thought about it. It's very funny because I think they're very similar in playing styles, and it's funny to see that Van Bronckhorst, after he left Feyenoord, never took a team very far into anything. He didn't make anyone champion or something. He made one European final with the Glasgow Rangers, but he lost that. But I think you can I think Priske and Van Bronckhorst are very comparable in their style of coaching. Yeah.
Yes, that's why I'm asking. So, what are you saying to me that you more of after Arne Slot, you actually need more of the tactical manager than the vibe or emotional manager, which is Brian or Zinedine Zidane or Giovanni Van Bronckhorst. Do you think like this is going to be something that Feyenoord needs to tackle in the next season as well? So you need someone that's really good tactically.
Well, our new head coach is Robin van Persie, also a very big name in European football. And the biggest thing Van Persie has going for himself is that he has a big aura. He has the same humor as Slot, the same media presence as Slot. So that's one thing we're not too worried about. But we have a lot of doubts about Van Persie's technical abilities. But after Arne Slot left 2 seasons ago, it would be better to. I believe if Van Persie became the head coach in the beginning of the season instead of Priske, that we would finish higher in the competition because he is more he looked and he is more like Arne Slot than Priske is.
I have a question. So Brian is coming back to Sparta. He may take Lucas with him or not. It was not yet confirmed, and I have no inside info. So my question is there anything what he changed about and Sparta fans should be concerned? Because you saw him in a different light than us.
Yeah. Well, that's a hard question because I'm not really. I do not have a lot of knowledge about Sparta. But the one thing I just want to say to all Sparta fans is I do think that last year was a very good teaching year for Priske. And I do believe that the mistakes he made at Feyenoord, he will not do them again. Because you can say whatever you want about Brian, but he is a very smart person, a very, very smart man. And I do think that this only helps him doing even better at Sparta.
One thing that's on my mind also, during his first season in Sparta, he lost to Viking Stavanger in one of the preliminary rounds at I think it was Europa League. I don't know if it was Europa League or Conference League. But as you said, you did really well in the Champions League. You beat AC Milan. You almost got qualified directly, if not for the loss with Salzburg and Lille. What was it with Brian in the Champions League that clicked? Or was it just that the players had a higher motivation? Why was it so different than in the Eredivisie?
Oh, well, the Feyenoord is last year. Feyenoord played its best games against better opponents. In the Champions League, every opponent is 80% of the time they're a bigger or better club than Feyenoord. So the players were really motivated. And I think that our opponents didn't think we could play games like we have played against Benfica, against Bayern, against City. So maybe they underestimated us as well. But in the Eredivisie, we always have to make the plays. We always have to be the better opponent. And it seemed like Priske did not have a good strategy for being dominant in the games. And as you can see against the City, we weren't dominant. We just had luck, and also we smelled blood at the end of the game. So we just continued to attack, and for some reason we scored 3 goals. But Priske was not the very optimistic or dominant coach we hoped him to be. And in the Eredivisie at Feyenoord, you have to be dominant, otherwise the opponents will just score a goal and lean back with all 11 players. So I think that's the biggest difference.
Uh, Are there any players or type of players that you were surprised that he was using or he preferred in the squad? And I'm not asking players like David Hansko, because as you said, he's one of the top defender prospects in Europe. But were there any individuals that he preferred and you think he should have not?
That's a good question. Well, I do not believe that he played with people who did not deserve it, because we do have some players who are bought by Arne Slota and didn't make a lot of minutes. But in the beginning of the season, he started with this rookie a lot. That's an Algerian midfielder at Feyenoord, who is not the best player. But soon, when he found out that most fans weren't happy with it, he changed it. So um, I think he did listen to what the media and the fans were saying.
How influential are media when it comes to Netherlands? Because we sometimes make fun of them in the Czech Republic, and I don't know what the role they play in the Eredivisie.
What do you mean exactly?
How important? Because what you just said is Brian, in your opinion, got influenced. Basically, what player he should put in the starting 11. So are media that influential in Netherlands when it comes to football?
Yeah. I do think that's a big influence for most teams, because the Netherlands is a small country, so the media is quite easily and very close to the teams. And when you look at the Premier League, every newspaper, everyone has an opinion about the game. But because the clubs are so rich and so big, they do not tend to very good listen to the public opinion. But in the Netherlands, it's a different story.
That's a good question. I'm going to read it to you. Doesn't Rowan think it doesn't matter who would come after Arne Slot as a coach when the expectations way too high before the seasons? Would it be better if they appointed actually someone who knew the environment and Feyenoord from within?
Yeah, like I said 2 questions ago, I honestly believe that if Robin van Persie took over after Slot, we would have done better, because he's very familiar with the club, with with just the general things about Rotterdam. He was born in Rotterdam. He played for Feyenoord his whole youth. So yeah, it would make a change or a difference. Just like I said, Brian Priske and Feyenoord wasn't a happy marriage from the start, and I believe someone with more knowledge about the Eredivisie, about Feyenoord, about our history would help with making some different changes in the team.
And I think the last question for me, if there is anything you don't want to ask me, which I'm happy to answer to, is there anything you think that the Sparta fans should be worried about in the next season? Because you were able to watch Brian more closely than us in the last months.
No, I really do hope that all Sparta fans cheer for him and just be really happy that he is back at your club. He is a living legend for Sparta. He made you champions 2 times, and I think it's a nice guy, and he deserves all the praise he gets from you. Just if I could give one piece of advice for you, just if he starts the next season and he is uncertain about things, just keep cheering for him, keep positive, keep helping him with the bad times, because he will make you champion, because he and Sparta is just a very good marriage, and we all could see that in the last few years. Just be glad that it didn't work out at Feyenoord, and just be happy that he's back at Prague.
Okay, thanks, Rowan. Thanks for your time.
Sure.
If you have any questions for me, you can ask them right now. If not, I'm going to end the space.
Well, yeah, I've got 2 questions.
Okay.
One, did Priske already did an interview about last season at Feyenoord?
He did not, and if he does, I'm going to send it to you.
Yeah, that would be very nice. And also, what is the general opinion about Feyenoord last season? Did you guys follow him? Was there more? Did more people follow Feyenoord because he was our coach? Of what was the general conception of the fans in at your team for Feyenoord and the interest for Feyenoord?
I think I think especially in the beginning of the season, I think even I was watching the Willem de Zwei, the game that you drew in the beginning of the season. I didn't watch the Super Cup you play against PSV, but I watched that. I especially watched the European games, as you said, Benfica, Manchester City, and others. So, and I think more people were watching this and also cheering for him. We always knew that one of his biggest liabilities is going to be that he was not able to take his management team over to Netherlands, and we were happy for that because Lars became a head coach and Christian stayed ahead of performance. I also think that if he would be able to take them both with him to Feyenoord, we would be a lot weaker. We would not be able to advance into the Champions League, but he would do much better than with just Lucas at Feyenoord. That's my honest opinion. Okay. Then one of the key moments when we played you guys at the Kuip, me personally, I was always sour, not that he left for Feyenoord, which, as you said, you're a bigger club, much bigger budget, much bigger league. Arne went directly from Feyenoord to Liverpool, so he has way more opportunity that he's ever going to have in Sparta. But how he did that, how he behaved to the club, left me a bit sour, and I'm still a bit sour about that as well. But for me, what was really weird was, and I think a lot of Sparta fans feel like this as well, when we played you guys and we lost for 2, he didn't even come over to the away end and he didn't even clap the fans. So I think it broke a lot of fans. But for me, it was weird. He didn't thank us and anything. He didn't do anything.
No,
and
okay.
I don't know if he talked about this in the Dutch media, but basically he ignored us, which was really weird.
Yeah, but that was only because it's funny because he did talk about it in the Dutch media. He said that it was very hard for him to replicate what he did at Sparta for his new club. Mm-hmm. So he said he intentionally just put his full focus on Feyenoord and kept the past in the past. So that's the reason why he maybe disconnected at Sparta.
Yeah, for me, it was a little bit sour. He needs to address that to the part of the fan base, in my opinion. He's going to do that. He's going to talk about Feyenoord, but he did the interview just with the club TV. And I think the next Monday, he's going to talk with other media. So I'm going to send it off to you guys. For sure.
Okay. Well, thank you for your time.
Yes,
thank you everyone for listening.
Yes. Thanks for having you over, Rowan. Next year when Brian moves back to Feyenoord, we're going to do another interview.
I hope my English wasn't too bad for the listeners. I tried my best.
Okay.
And I wish you all a very good evening.
Yes, thank you, Rowan. I'm going to do just the ending and then finish the space.
Sure, thank you. Ciao. Bye.
Čau. Takže díky moc, že jste si na to udělali čas. Já se omlouvám za technické problémy na začátku. My to se Zdeněčkem vystřihneme. Zítra ráno bude záznam na YouTube jako vždycky. Bohužel, jak jsem říkal, titulky nebudou, nejsme to schopni zprocesovat a těšíme se na vás, třeba vymyslíme nějakou další epizodu. Mějte se. Čau.